Welcome to a very special edition of Student of the Gun Radio, soon to be award-winning Student of the Gun Radio. I am your host, Professor Paul Markle. We are in the Glass Case of Emotion Studios, and today is the last public hour of the week, but Jared, we don't do this on purpose. It just seems to happen. People are like, no, you always schedule your guests on Thursday. Actually, we don't do that deliberately.
Nope, it just happens.
It just seems to work out that way. And lucky for you that it did, because we've got a very special guest waiting to speak to you. He's holding on patiently on the line. So we're going to take care of business, and then we won't keep him waiting for too long. So welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your excellent decision-making skills for choosing Student of the Gun Radio. And before we jump into it, I want to remind you that this week, and this is the last public hour, so you guys need to do us a favor, do yourself a favor. Every week we have a featured sponsor of the week, and this week it's Century Arms. So go over to their Facebook page or their website and just say, hey, thanks for being a part of the Student of the Gun family. Duracoat, we just got a new order of Duracoat. And you know what I forgot, Jared? Because we do so much.
What?
I totally forgot that we were going to do electric Everglades. We were going to do a frog loop gun.
Yeah.
An electric Everglades green frog loop. And we haven't done that yet.
Well, that's coming in the future then, right?
Oh, geez, I know. Crossbreed holsters. I am wearing a Crossbreed holster right now as I speak to you. A Super Tuck, also known as the
Caitlyn Jenner commemorative.
That's right, Caitlyn Jenner commemorative. And Brownells, if you want Duracoat, or you want frog lube, or you want anything to screw onto, put into, attach to a gun, go to brownells.com. Now, the gentleman who's hanging out right now waiting for Jared to unmute his microphone is a United States Navy captain, retired. He was not just a member. A lot of when you hear somebody that was a U.S. Navy SEAL, you're like, well, they were on a team for 4 years or whatever, and then they got out and decided to sell the perfect push-up or the perfect ab blaster or what have you. This gentleman right here, he wasn't just on a team. He was the West Coast team guy. And I'm going to go ahead. Jared, are you ready to unmute his microphone?
Sure, I can do that.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Navy Captain retired Larry Lasky. Larry, thank you for joining us today. Somebody working out? I hear metal clinking against metal.
No. That was just my head bouncing off my laptop. I just woke up.
No, you didn't. I know you're early to rise. Now,
I've got a couple of steel bolts in my body here or there.
Now, Larry, you weren't just on a team. You became you went to Officer Candidate School when? How long ago was that?
Oh God, you're going to date me now. I joined the Navy in 1982 and went through AOCS. I thought I was going to be an aviator. So for about two and a half years of my naval career, I practiced really hard and pretty much completed the program. But I put a nice dent in the flight deck of a few of their aircraft carriers. So they asked me if I was interested in any other pursuits in the Navy. And I said, maybe I'll try jumping out of the planes instead of landing them. So long story short, save you all that grief, but I bounced into the SEAL teams in 1984, class 129, graduated September 21st. Hell, I still remember the name of my drill instructor. I still, communicate with them from AOCS era, but that's another story. Anyway, graduated, went to SEAL Team 1, did a few pumps there, and did another West Coast team, SEAL Team 5. In the 90s, they moved me to Europe, did a tour over there. Then I ended up coming back to the States, did about 10 years on the right coast, and finished up my career out in San Diego. I was in command of various units. One of them was the special boat team on the West Coast. That was actually really fun. Did some overseas combat time. Ended up, my last combat tour was in Afghanistan. And then I got elevated into a 06 command position right before I retired. Retired in 2008. And putzed around for a year trying to figure out what I was going to do as a civilian. So that's the quick down and dirty on my career.
And somebody had already invented the U.S. Navy SEAL perfect push-up machine, so you couldn't do that. Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that you say that, because when I got out of the Navy, the last thing in the world I wanted to do was do anything remotely related to military, to the Navy SEAL. I'd pretty much reached saturation point on all that stuff. Not to get political, but I saw which way the winds were blowing. Mm-hmm. And I just said, you know what, I'm done. I'm out of here. I don't think I'd be the right kind of person to fit in the new modern era. So I'm kind of old school. They cussed and yelled profanities at me when I was going through boot camp. We didn't have timeout cards.
Did they hurt your feelings?
What's that?
Did they hurt your feelings?
Yeah, they really did. They really harmed my feelings. But you know what they did? They created what we call feeling body armor. And I cannot be hurt now. People go, well, that's a big drama. That's a big problem. And I go, look, I've been shot at. I've crashed in a helicopter. I've almost caught on fire. You really can't hurt me. I fell off a cliff. Somebody pulled my arm out of a socket in a free fall. It's happened to me, and I survived it. So, you can't hurt me. The drama that people deal with today doesn't really faze me.
What's funny is we probably know a lot of the same people, because I know that the teams are real tight communities, and now I know a lot of East Coast guys, and I know a lot of East Coast guys like you talk to me like, I was East Coast the whole time. I don't know the West Coast guys. Now you actually got to experience both of those sides.
Yeah, I was one of those guys, which were kind of rare. Is spent like half my time on either coast, so whenever we would get together, I was the guy that I knew almost everybody. And, there's really no difference between the East Coast and the West Coast guys. When you get out in the field, when you strap it on, when you do the deeds, whatever you're supposed to do, everybody comes together and, merges. We used to do some ops in the Persian Gulf back when I was with the boat team. Full on, Night Stalker, pirate kind of stuff, running down tankers in the middle of the night. And we had a West Coast boat crew and an East Coast SEAL platoon in the boat. And, we dirt dive it at the edge of the pier, get on the boat and go do the op. And everybody, gelled basically on the way out there. So all that mythology about there's a big difference between the East and the West, I didn't see it.
Well, I think the now the West Coast guys, they get issued Ray-Bans, and the East Coast guys get issued gargoyles. Is that it? What's funny, you said gel, because another friend of mine, he goes. Yeah. He goes, you want to hear he goes, you haven't heard a real SEAL story until you've heard a West Coast and an East Coast guy arguing about the merits of alcohol-based versus non-alcohol-based hair gel in the event of an IED attack.
Yeah.
And which one you should use.
The only difference between the East Coast and the West Coast is in the West Coast, they had panty liners in their Speedos. The East Coast guys didn't. Somebody told me one time, they go, hey, you want to figure out how to get a West Coast guy to pay attention, and they're like, "What?" They just show up with a camera.
Oh, and the guys out there like, in the Marine Corps, it's a similar situation. If you went to Parris Island, you were a real Marine, and then the Parris Island East Coast guys are all like, "Oh, those Hollywood Marines went to boot camp out in Hollywood, and you still got your glasses from boot camp. You still get your sunglasses they issued you in boot camp there."
Nah, it's a fun thing that we do. We poke fun at each other. It's esprit de corps, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing with Marines. SEALs and Marines bond. They don't bond in garrison or out in town. They fight.
Well,
but when they go overseas and show up at the FOB, everybody shakes hands, gives each other, exchanges gear, ComShaw stuff, borrows stuff. And when the bullets start flying, everybody bonds as one unit. So that's just the way it is. We had Air Force guys in our unit. We had Navy EOD guys. We had Marine guys in our unit in Afghanistan that were doing, some security stuff with us. So, it all gels. When stuff starts happening, everybody comes together.
Well, it's what's funny is when the Marine Corps Navy rivalry. It's like. You always it's like teasing your little brother, but it's like I'm allowed to tease my little brother, but no one else is. You don't get to do that. I get to do that, but when we were in Toulon, France, back during the Cold War, and I was stationed on board the USS Forrestal for a couple of years as part of the Marine detachment, and so of course a Marine detachment on an aircraft carrier, you're the captain's pit bulls. That's what you are. You're his guard dogs. And we had Marine Corps attitudes because that's what you have. But the guys that were in the weapons platoon, not weapons platoon, but the weapons section, the bomb makers, they were our buddies because that's who we hung out with. We were out in town in a bar, and some guys were messing with the Navy guys, the weapons platoon guys, and we said, "Hey, enough of this." So we did things that we probably shouldn't have done, but essentially it was like we can mess with them, but you're not allowed to do that. So.
Right. Yeah, I was on a carrier one time. I was on the Kennedy, and we had the Marines. What do they call them? The fast guys or something?
Oh, the fast team. Yeah, I don't know if they even still have the fast team. That was way before MARSOC. That was like in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, you're right. That was before MARSOC. And
that was kind of the precursor to MARSOC.
Yeah, we kind of hung out with those guys. And, they had the same kind of, ethos that we did, meat eaters, we were always pumping together with them in the gym. We went out in town, went on Liberty together. So, yeah, same kind of guys.
We were talking
we're
about...
all like that. We're sheepdogs. And,
we were talking about running the other day. Was Wednesday. We were talking about running and how I've run in places that people don't run, like the middle of the Indian Ocean, the Persian Gulf, because I was on a steel deck flat top running in the Indian Ocean. Ridiculous things like that. Or you have to take your T-shirt off to do push-ups because if you put your bare hands on the flight deck, it burns grill marks into your hands. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, and the non-skid would add to the experience.
What a wonderful life. Well, all right, so we're done playing Old Home Week. You guys are like, now for those of you that aren't hip enough to know, those of you in Student of the Gun audience that don't know, Larry, after he was all done with his world tour, and he got back into the civilian world, he started a little company called Frog Lube. And Larry's going to tell us, Frog Lube's got a new product coming out, and I was on the phone with him yesterday. I actually talk to people on the phone. I don't just text them. And I said, why don't you just go ahead, come on Student of the Gun Radio, and tell the audience what the deal with Frog Lube Extreme is and why it's special. So, Larry, take it away. Tell us what's special about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really appreciate you inviting me on to talk about it, Paul and Jared. I mean, this is the perfect type of venue and also the perfect timing to, be the first one to really scoop it, to announce it. If you have Recoil Magazine or have access to it, this month, they scooped it on the print side of the house. So there's a little article on page 26 in Recoil this month. So go check that out too. Anyway, long story short, on the Extreme, we have a passionate pursuit of perfection with respect to firearms operations, maintenance, and care products. We like to say that is the center of gravity and the aim point for the direction that Frog Lube is moving in. That's where we started, and that's where we continue to move. Do firearms work perfectly? Are they perfectly clean all the time? No. So it gives us plenty of areas to focus on. So we began with lubricants. We now make degreasing solvents. The two-part system that we developed is really a product of, a lot of shooting, a lot of reading reference documents like military tech manuals and NRA instructor guides, and most operation manuals for most firearms. So we gelled all of that into, a focus towards, we're going to make the right stuff for the right instruction, for the right gun, and then we're going to doggedly pursue to improve it. And what Extreme is a result of the next generation of new technology in liquid CLP. The original CLP liquid that we're making now that's out on the shelves is really good. It performs very well, but about almost 3 years ago, we got approached by the U.S. Army for a test on bio-based gun care products. So we answered the call and provided some field kits for them to take a look at. And, during that testing process, one of the things that came up was we need something that will pour at like minus 70 degrees. So, of course, we're looking at that going, who the hell is going to be pouring gun CLP at minus 70? No one.
Not me.
Yeah. So at minus 70, about all you're going to be doing out in the field is trying to save your own hide. You're going to be in survival mode. You're going to be digging a snow cave. But, you can't ignore the fact that that's what their spec was. So we said, we'll go give it the old college try and see what we can come up with. And we developed this formulation and gave it to them and pushed it into their testing. So, I don't know where the government's going anymore. I'm not even sure whose side anybody's on up there anymore. But the testing has not completed. It's stalled or waiting for funding or something like that. I'm not really sure what's going on. I keep an arm's length away from it. I really don't want to be involved. So I just go back and do my own thing. And I started looking at this stuff that we developed, and I said, you know what? I really like this. So I stripped all the Frog Lube off all my guns, and I put this stuff on it, and I said, I'm going to go shoot the crap out of this. And I did that for going on 3 years now, and it blows my doors off. So we said, hey, let's put a label on it, and, let's push it out there into the public and let the public have at it. I think they're going to like it. And that's really the story of how Frog Lube Extreme came into being. What is it? It's an extremely temperature friendly lube. You can use it in minus 40s all the way up to, if you get into above 120, you're going to be just fine because it doesn't burn off. And it's when it comes to fouling, you remember it's a lubricant. It's not a cleaner, but it is a CLP. So it breaks down the fouling into even smaller particles, so it makes cleanup even easier than our other stuff. And the other benefit to it is if you have precision firearms or firearms that tend to be difficult to clean because you can't take them apart very far, a lot of the modern striker type guns and, the Glocks and your SIGs and guns like that they don't like you taking apart too much. It works really well inside those guns. People tend to do the wrong things, they over-lube their guns, they mix things. And that's the other area where we found it's really friendly is if you do happen to not follow instructions and just goop up your gun, it's very friendly, if you happen to do something like that. And at the end of the day, it's still, food grade components. It's non-toxic, no hazmat. You can take a bath in it if you want. So it retains all those environmentally friendly aspects of all of our other product line.
So you could have Frog Lube wrestling matches.
I've always thought that if you were going to promote Frog Lube, that would be a great way to do it. Is just fill up a water bed with about 55 gallons of it, heat it up to 90 degrees, and have people wrestle in it. It would be so funny. No one would ever win because they could never grab and hold on to their opponent.
Oh, there you go.
I think that's a legit marketing tactic.
People are like, ooh, I never thought about that. It's too bad that they're not having the Soldier Fortune conventions anymore. You could do Frog Lube wrestling at the Soldier Fortune convention.
Oh, man.
Can you imagine MMA in a freaking vat of Frog Lube?
Oh, man.
It'd be good for your tattoos also.
Yeah, there you go. You bring up a good point. You say, no, guns are not perfect. And I think the American gun culture, the American culture, we're always searching for a way to get out of doing work. We're always, like, for instance, when the Glocks came out, back in the early 90s, you had cops saying things like, oh, you don't have to clean these guns. These are maintenance free. You don't need to clean them.
Yeah.
No, it's not that you don't need to. It's just you need to do it less. It requires less maintenance because it's a better product or a more user-friendly product. But you still have to, every once in a while, actually clean your guns. We're like, what? I don't want a gun if I'm going to have to clean it.
Did you realize that Americans work really hard to be really lazy?
Yeah, work really hard to try not to work. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you really raise a very excellent point right now because in our culture, we have exposure now to way more information in the snap of a finger than any one of us can even process.
Yeah.
But the good news is most of it's BS. And to discover the right reality is worth its weight in gold. So the point that you brought up about the cops saying you don't need to clean your gun. As I scan the internet and I look for stuff, weirdo YouTubes out there, weirdo forums and blogs and such. You go through the blogs and you discover that about 90 to 95% of the information that's in the blog is either unqualified, it's amateurish, it's fantasy, it's made up, and the people that are doing it are anonymous. Yep. So immediately you can discount all that stuff. It's just a bunch of noise. It's background noise.
Well, people ask,
and a lot of these advertisers, even some of the big companies, they're narrowly looking at how many clicks some idiot gets on his website, and then they're going to sling a bunch of money at him. They don't care what the content of the material is. So you take an organization like you guys or a company like ours where we only do the right thing. If it's the wrong thing, we'll alert you to that. Or if a customer calls us up and says, hey, I got a problem, we have a tech support capability where we respond to them and we go, what's your problem? And we talk to them. And what we find out is somebody makes a statement like that, I didn't think I needed to clean my gun. And then we go, okay, what kind of gun is it? It's a Glock 17. Roger that. Have you ever looked at the Glock operations manual? It's conveniently accessible on the internet in a downloadable file. And on page 46, it tells you exactly what you're supposed to do to clean and properly maintain your Glock. Have you done that? Oh, no, I didn't know.
I didn't know there was one. There's an operator's manual? What?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, dude. Why don't you go check out that manual and strip everything off your gun using our degreasing solvents and our super degreasers, and then reapply our lubricant in accordance with what it tells you to do there. And if you still have a problem, call me back. You know how many callbacks I've gotten?
Probably none.
0.
Yeah.
So most of the problems that we've found that people are having out there in gun, world, gun land, is due to their own operator error, ignorance, failure to follow instructions, make it up as you go, creativity, fantasy island, gun care. I've cleaned guns with taco sauce in front of people. I've showed them how I can clean a gun with taco sauce.
Yeah.
You get some of these brass guns that like acid to clean the fingerprints off of them. I go, we don't have any acid in our products, so it's not going to clean brass off your gun. But give me some taco sauce and I'll clean it. Once I clean it, then we'll reapply our lube and it'll protect it. But, you can run I like these guys that say, hey man, all I need is wheel bearing grease and Mobil 1. I don't need any of that highfalutin stuff. And then I go, what if the airplane that you were flying on, the maintenance crew that was, fixing the plane, just said, throw some Mobil 1 and some wheel bearing grease on it, it'll be good. You wouldn't do that. You'd go, that idiot doesn't know what he's doing. He's taking a shortcut. This plane could fly out of the sky. So when it comes time to gun care and performance, like I said, we have a passionate pursuit of performance. We don't say perfection. There is no such thing. We're always striving towards it, but it's a journey. It's not a destination.
It's kind of like being a student for life.
Yeah,
exactly. So I'll blather on and forever and ever about gun lube, and
all right,
people will go, "How can you talk so much?
How
about
can you
lube?
talk so much about lube?"
That's kind of my job.
Yeah. Well, the main question, the big question, really, for everybody who's listening is, when is Frog Lube Extreme going to be available? Is it available, and where can I get it?
Another thing we learned as a company was if you're going to announce something that's good to go, brand new, better than sliced bread, you better have it. So it's ready now.
Okay.
Our distributors are starting to buy it. So that means it's going to find its way into the dealer level. If customers go knock on their dealer's door and they go, hey, I went on the Frog Lube website, they got a new product out, it's called Frog Lube Extreme, when are you guys going to get it? That will create a pull effect to the consumer level. Trust me, if the consumers go into their local gun store and they say, hey, man, I want this product and I'll buy it, those dealers in a heartbeat will go find it. It's out there in the distributor world. RSR, Ellett Brothers, places like that have already bought it. And then if they really get into a pinch, we actually have it on the Frog Lube website. It's called the Frog Shop. So you can buy it right now.
The Frog Shop.
That's another point I want to bring up is if a lot of you guys in the Student the Gun audience have Frog Lube, and I've gotten a few questions about how to apply it. If you go to froglube.com, there is actually an instruction tab on there. If you click on that, it'll tell you exactly what to do to apply it the correct way.
That's crazy.
Thanks for bringing that up, Jared, because our website, the way it's configured, is we have a tab called Knowledge. And we couldn't think of a better word other than here's the knowledge.
Yeah.
You know, it's time tested. We've done it. It works. So we're saving you, the end user, a lot of, you know, brain strain and mistakes and trial by error. The other thing that we just started, and we kind of thought of you guys, was we created a you're going to like this, troubleshooting guide. We couldn't think of a better word.
Troubleshooting.
But on the troubleshooting guide, we're going to put one-page expanded explanations about certain aspects of the product. We've got a couple of them up there right now. One of them is about how to clean the bore, because we've had people ask us, how do I clean the bore? So we expanded the explanation on that. And the other one was 2 is 1, 1 is none. And what that is the explanation of why you need to have a degreasing cleaning solvent and a lubricant. And I'll boil it down for you. If you want to clean your lube, because some guys go, I don't want to take my lube out. I don't ever want to have to lube. I just want to have to re-lube. To that we go, how are you going to clean your lube when it gets dirty? Because what do you think's happening when you're shooting your gun out at the dusty range or, you know, in the wet swamp shooting ducks? You know, what do you think's happening to your lube? It's getting dirty. You got to clean it. You know, if you took your car in for an oil change, would you just expect them to take your old dirty oil out and then put it right back in? No, you want clean oil, you know. So anyway, that troubleshooting guide is on there now, and we'll be populating that with new information, new explanations, and we get these off of our tech support website. So when guys ask us this and that, if we get like 10 questions on something, we go, about time to do a further explanation on that one.
Frequently asked questions. There you go. So, yes, you mean you don't put dirty oil back in your engine? You put clean oil in your engine? Is that how that works? That's crazy talk.
Yeah. And that's been perfected over 100 years of trial and error. You know? And NASCAR's figured that out, too.
What?
Again, like you and I have talked about in the past, Paul, there's no shortage of armchair experts out there in basements, you know, ticking away on keyboards that have done something like one time. And suddenly, you know, they're the world's foremost expert because they have the best tactical website. And all the information when I read it is all wrong, you know. It's really unfortunate.
There's thing that the internet and the modern world, and I'm going to editorialize just a little bit, but it's got us to this point where everybody assumes that you can get everything you need without labor, without experience. And people ask us all the time, they say, well, how do I know if this instructor, this school is a good school? How do I know if this is a good thing? And my answer is, you won't until you get life experience. And people don't want to invest in getting life experience. They just want to have it. I just want to have it right now. And like I can't give you a shortcut. It's like, give me a pill so I can bench press 250 pounds tomorrow. I can't do that. You're going to have to work at it. You're going to have to get some life experience. And the more you do, the more, you know, the better decisions you'll be able, or better equipped you'll be able to make decisions. You know, these folks, tell me what to do. And I really don't want to tell you what to do. I want you to learn what to do. That's that whole instructor.
Yeah, you're here to guide them along the way.
There's sorry to interrupt, but there's so much of this stuff out there on the internet, and there's no empirical evidence. You know, and I'll give you an example of what I tell people when I take them out to the range and I demonstrate frog lube. I go, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab this gun off the back of my truck. We're going to put it on the ground. We're going to sight a target 100 yards away, and we're going to see how close it shoots to the X. Now, it's got a work. So we're testing it for function. We're also testing the dope, for the gun. It's set to 0. And let's see what happens. Pull the gun off, take 2 shots. One of them hits the X, the other one hits the other bullet hole. So take the gun up and put it back on the truck. And I go, that's empirical evidence of Frog Lube, the system, works. Now, am I saying that Frog Lube makes your gun more accurate? Am I saying that Frog Lube makes your gun look cooler? Am I saying that, I sprinkled some fairy dust and this magic just happened? No. What I'm saying is that Frog Lube did not create any variance in your firearm. When you pulled the trigger with the scope reticle fixed on the X and you walked up to 100 yards and saw that it went right through the X, then your gun worked. And that's that passionate pursuit of performance that your gun lube now didn't create variance. It didn't create a flyer. Whether it's cold bore or warm bore, it doesn't matter. Your bullet should go in the same place, whether it's a cold bore or a warm bore, with Frog Lube. Mm-hmm. If you're running petroleum-based products, I cannot say that, because petroleum doesn't do what Frog Lube does. It oxidizes, it heats up, it flashes off, it burns. Those are the things we've eliminated with Frog Lube. So over the course of time and round count and doing a lot of shooting, we've discovered this magic, this, perfection. So if you use the product in accordance with the instructions, if you follow the instructions, if you clean your bore the way we tell you to do it, then, and if you're an accomplished shooter, your gun will work every time. And if you put your point of aim, your point of impact will be the same. Any questions? So that's it.
Yes. Can you give me a magic pill to make me a good shooter, or do I have to practice?
That's the weird thing, is that the people's guns are way more...
You still have to have a good platform. You still have to iron out your grip problems. You still got to get a sight picture, and you still got to manipulate the trigger. You still have to do those things yourself.
Aww.
But the gun itself is not going to create a variable, which is that's really the magic of Frog Lube.
The greatest
We've eliminated the variables with gun lube.
Yeah, the greatest that's the thing with people like, let's say, with Glocks or whatever, like, I hate a Glock. I was like, well, here's the thing. What I want is a tool that I know is going to itself function all the time, because the greatest variable in the entire equation is the human monster that's holding on to it. So if I can eliminate as many variables out of that other stuff and focus on the variables of the human monster, then we're doing something.
Really good point, because if you're chasing a flyer situation because of fouling or overheating, how could you know whether when you adjusted your grip or you changed your trigger pull, that it had any effect on correcting that variable? You've got more than one variable now. So, you've got a calculus equation, and good luck with that.
People's brains are going to start smoking.
All we did with Frog Lube was we established the goal that we wanted to eliminate gun care products, gun care lubricants as a variable inside the firearm. I call it, the umpire effect. You go to a football game and you have two teams and they're fighting it out on the gridiron. And when the clock ticks 0 and there's a score on the scoreboard and everybody goes, yay, I'm happy my team won, or the other side goes, my team didn't win, but they played a good game. No one sits there and goes, wow, what a great referee that was. In fact, if the referee does insert himself throughout the game, people go, that game sucked, because the referee was always there doing something stupid. So with gun care, we like to say, we're that referee. We're going to make sure the gun works all the time, doesn't create a variable, and at the end of the shooting experience, you didn't notice your gun lube. You just shot your gun.
Well, there you go, folks. That is from the man himself, Larry, Captain, U.S. Navy Captain, retired Larry Lasky. And Larry, we got well, we're speaking of clocks. The clock on the wall says that we need to start putting the wraps on this episode of Student of the Gun. But I want to thank you very much for taking the time to join us today, and for being a student of the gun and supporting us. You know, we couldn't do it without people like yourself, and the reason that we do what we do is because we enjoy working with like-minded individuals. And I know that Jared and I and you, that we're on the same wavelength, and we like to get as many people on the same wavelength as we can.
Yes, Student of the Gun is not.
Well, thank you.
It's not just.
Thank you guys very much for having me.
All right, folks. Now we started something new on Student of the Gun Radio last week. It's going to be our weekly Student of the Gun homeroom segment. And before we do that, I want to thank our buddies at Velocity Triggers, designed for precision. Check them out at velocitytriggers.com. And yes, my new rifle, pistol, gun that I call Toxicity has a velocity trigger in it. And SWAT Fuel. SWAT Fuel is special weapons and tactics for the body. Use the SWAT Fuel promo code SOTG2015 when you check out, and you're going to save yourself 10% off your total order, and that is righteous. Now, the cool thing about adding a new segment to the show is we get to add a new theme. And this theme is from our buddies at Madison Rising.
What you gonna do when it all comes back to the place that you never wanted it to come back to? And where you gonna roll when the bottom drops out and you got no place to go? Who you gonna trust when trust is a must? You better roll with the rest of us. So pack your bags and all the faith you can, cause it's about ready to hit the fan. Come to the ready. 2012, y'all about the re-election of an antichrist. Come to the ready. You don't believe me, just so deep into the soul of the liar's eyes. Come to the ready. The Constitution of our nation is under attack.
Come to the ready. You know, David Bray of Madison Rising is a former sailor, too. He was in the Navy. It's kind of like Navy Day today. It's Nautical Day.
For you grad program members, you can go back and listen to the episode we did with Dave Bray. Just go ahead, search Dave Bray, D-A-V-E-B-R-A-Y, on studentofthegunradio.com, and you will have access to that episode.
Pretty cool. All right, Student of the Gun Homeroom is brought to you by Cap Arms. That's CAPARMS.com. Cap Arms is a ammunition manufacturer, Capital Armament. They make .223, .45, 9mm, 300 Blackout.
I may have something.
If you're into the Blackout.
I may have something special for you grad program members tomorrow.
Oh, we may. So check those guys out. They are the newest sponsor of Student of the Gun, and they've decided to jump in for the homeroom segments. Now, today we're going to talk about cold weather carry. It's getting that way. Now, the mercury is dropping just a little bit down here in the south. It gets down into the 50s at night. And we're like, ooh, got to put an extra blanket on the bed. Yeah, southern people are pretty much insane when it comes to weather. It'll get into the 40s in the south, and you see people walking around with knit hats and gloves on. You're like, oh, come on. Yeah, you get you Yankees up there like, what? If it's 45, I'm walking around in a T-shirt outside. Yeah, I know. Southern people have thin blood, and so it gets to the 40s, and they pull out their gloves and their hooded sweatshirts and fleece. And it was it last weekend, Jared? We went to this. We were out shopping or what have you, and it was in the mid 60s, and I saw a guy in a fleece jacket. I'm like, dude, it's 68 degrees. It's 67. Yeah,
I thought you were going to say you saw somebody in a short skirt and a long jacket.
No. So how do you carry concealed in cold weather? Well, the good news about the mercury dropping is the fact that you can wear more clothing to conceal your stuff, which is a good thing. When it's the middle of the summertime, you're wearing shorts and a T-shirt, it's kind of hard to conceal a full-size gun, what have you, and all that.
So you're talking about like an AK-47 or?
No, I'm talking about just like regular stuff.
Oh, okay.
One of the main questions is if I'm up north or if I'm in an area where it's really cold and I'm wearing a jacket and I'm bundled up against the weather, how do I get to a holstered gun? Well, you don't, because it's underneath there. So what you need to do is alter your plan a little bit. Some people will gun guys will just keep their jackets unzipped or unbuttoned or whatever so they can sweep it aside and get to their gun. And you can do that. But let's face it, if you're freezing, you're not going to be a happy camper. One of the ways you can get around that is to start pocket carrying, because most winter jackets have big, bulky pockets, which is good. Do not drop guns naked into your pockets. Take the moment and invest in some type of a quality pocket holster. Now, if you're going to do that, the question is, well, should I put it on my right side or my left? I don't care. You're an American. Well, you may not be an American listening to this, but if you aren't in America, you probably can't.
Inside
anyway.
you are.
So, number one, get a quality pocket holster. Number two, if you have to draw a gun out of a pocket, take the pocket holster out of that pocket, reinsert the gun into it, and then put it back in. That's generally a good idea. Number two, or number three, or number four, whatever we're on, gloves. How many of you guys wear gloves in the wintertime? Well, if you're wearing gloves, do you think you might want to actually get out to the range and practice using your self-defense gear with gloves on?
Yeah, but then I don't look as good.
Well, yeah, my groups aren't as tight if I wear gloves. Yeah, well, you're going to be tight in that coffin if you get caught unaware. Get to the range and actually use your gloves. If you're going to be wearing... when I was a police officer, I deliberately went out and I bought those... and this is going to date me, but you remember Dan Marino and the Isotoners? Do you, Jared? You have no idea what I'm talking about, do you?
I know who Dan Marino is.
Isotoner gloves. They were essentially snug fit winter gloves. They were warm, but they were snug fit, and they gave you good digital dexterity. I used to use the Isotoner gloves because I could wear gloves and operate my gun at the same time.
There's so many different kinds now, though.
Oh, I know. But if you're going to wear gloves, you're going to buy gloves, buy the gloves and go to the range and actually try working your gear with gloves on.
I bet Brownells has some.
They may, or I don't know. But what I'm going to tell you is, number one, when it comes to winter carry, it's a good because you have more layers of clothing to hide your stuff. You can carry big guns and magazines and all that. That's a plus. But if you're all bundled up, it's hard to get to your gear. So you may have to alter things a little bit, such as pocket carry, pocket holster carry, and make sure that you're wearing your gloves and that you practice with your gloves on. It's amazing to me how many people will wear gloves and are like, yeah, my hands are warm and stuff. And they'll go to the range and say, would you ever practice with them? Well, no, because it's hard. It's difficult. Yeah, I know. I get that part, but you actually should do that. Practice like you're going to actually be dressed. You might actually want to go to the range and practice, if you're wearing a jacket, like sweeping the jacket aside and accessing your gun. You can do that without being at the range. You can just unload your gun and do that dry in your den or living room or what have you. But the fact of the matter is, if you're changing your clothes, you're changing your manner of dress, you need to get yourself used to that again. That is what I'm going to say about winter carry. All right, Jared, did we thank all of our friends? I think we did. We thanked Century. We thanked Cubby, Roy, Duracoat, Crossbreed. We thanked Brownells Velocity, Frog Lube, of course, and SWAT Fuel. And, of course, our new friends, the Thursday homeroom sponsors at Cap Arms, caparms.com. All right, kids. Well, that brings us up to the end of the public broadcast for the week. But all of you grad program members, fear not. We will be back tomorrow with a full show for you guys. And if you want to become a grad program member, you're like, what's the story? What's the dealio? Jared, how can they do that? Tell them how they're allowed to do that.
Go to studentofthegunradio.com, click on the Become a Member tab or the little Learn More blue button. If you can't find a way once you get to studentofthegunradio.com, you don't need to be in the grad program anyway. So once you go to studentofthegunradio.com, find your way there, and then you can get a free 30-day trial. It's completely free, no strings attached. You can listen for 30 days. If you don't like it, then...
If you don't like it after 30 days, I don't even know what to tell you.
So far...
You probably should go listen to NPR
I would say
something.
So far we've converted everybody. So that's my challenge. My challenge to you is to... I was going to say to not like us, but it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard not to like.
Don't buy my product. Yeah. Buy someone else's. I don't care. All right, folks. Remember, as you go into your weekend that you're a beginner once, but you should always be a student for life.